join me welcome Miss Francesca Uriri. You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much for having me here. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. Super excited to be here. Thank you to Omilola and the Richer Woman team for for inviting me to be part of this awesome, amazing summit. So we're going to jump right in. I'll be speaking from my slides, but I won't project them because I want this to be as engaging and as informal as possible. I'm not going to go through my bio. A very fantastic MC and host has done that. But I would, just give sort of like an intro. So when you're thinking about building, or when you're thinking of expanding your career for global impact and visibility, there are a few things that you have to be intentional about. And I use the word intention, and I'm going to keep using that as we go along because I think it's very important. So please make a note of that. We will keep returning back to it because intention is so important. So one of the first things that, you should do is to map it. At the beginning, people often ask me, like, did I plan to be, so I work, for example, I work at Meta, formerly Facebook. It's one of the biggest companies in the world, one of the top players in technology and in Silicon Valley. And when people ask me that, people say, did you ever think that you could be there? And I say yes, because I visualized it. I actually wrote it down. And I was very intentional about sort of like the sort of roles I was applying for. Again, we'll go into that as we delve deeper into the conversation. So the first thing I would say that is very, very helpful about global career acceleration and visibility is to begin to map it out in your mind. Practice the art of visualization. What does that mean? What do you want to be? I find that a lot of people, especially women, are not very intentional. So it's kind of like, we have a Nigerian idiomatic expression which says like anywhere belly face. So it's like this job comes, they take it. The next one comes, they take it. It's basically more for survival than for planning. And I know that not everybody has sort of like the luxury of choosing or picking roles because sometimes it is about survival. But as you go up the corporate ladder, there has to be a plan. There has to be a visualization. You have to visualize, where do I want to be? Do I want to be top of like, sales career, my sales career? Do I want to be top of like my real estate career? Do I want to be the top of, the tech sector? And then what are the things that get me there? Visualization is also important because it gives you very practical, very physical and practical things to look at. So I'm Christian, I identify as Christian. For those of, I'm sure there are people on the call who are not of the Christian faith, but I identify as Christian. So I'm going to use some examples from the Bible. There's a part in the Bible in Genesis, I believe, where Jacob wanted to have, he wanted to have like a particular set of flock of sheep. And he basically made sure that they were looking at a certain object because he wanted to get a certain outcome. And that's why this power of visualization is so important. So for example, what do I mean by visualization? Have a mood board or have a vision board. Who are the people in your industry that you want to be like? Who are the people in your industry that you want to meet? Who are the people in your industry that inspire you? And this is something that I did. So I would put women in communications or women in PR. I would have their photographs on my vision board. I would have the specific companies that I wanted to work for on the vision board. And so every day that I wake up, every day that I'm saying my prayers, every day that I'm meditating, every day that I'm just going about life, those physical manifestations of where I want to go. They surround my space and they remind me of what is possible. So I would say make those mental connections, utilize tools that bring the actual picture to light. The Bible says that as a man thinketh, so is he. And another thing on the back of visualization is writing things down. Again, I know that this seems very like, okay, I have it in my head already. Why do I have to write it down? Writing is like chronicling. It's like recording. It's like putting stakes in the ground. You can refer back to it. So for example, I have notes. I remember in 2014, for example, I was ready for a career change in my life, and there were 3 companies that I wanted to work for at that time. There was the British Council, there was a Etisalat, and there was, I think, Total. And I wrote them down. And again, writing things down gives, and I know this sounds very like, okay, please this sounds very woo-woo, but it's true. When you write things down, it's almost like you're giving permission to those things to happen. And they guide like your prayer, they guide your meditation, they guide your planning. So for example, I knew that I wanted to work at the British Council. I then began to be more aware and more open. I would look, I was more aware of the roles that were opening up at the British Council. Same thing for Etisalat, same thing for Total. And I eventually did get a job at the British Council, but I didn't take the offer. More on that later. But writing things down is very important because it gives you a guide and like a blueprint to what you want to achieve in your career. Now, visualization is one part. Writing it down is the second. The third is obviously we now have to be very realistic. The rubber has to hit the road. So you must make a plan. Plans are very, very important. They are very important to what we do. They are very important to what we're trying to achieve. And again, there's a saying that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So set clear, achievable, time-bound goals. Again, I'll use the example. I, for example, had said, okay, at the end of 2014, I was like, I'm looking for a career, I'm looking to transition in my career. And so I was going to spend the next 6 to 9 months aggressively applying for the roles and in the industries and in the sectors that I wanted to. Again, being very intentional, being very specific. I found that a lot of people want to change their jobs, want, career globalization and advancement, but they're never really quite intentional. There's never really quite a plan. So it's like, okay, again, that whole anywhere beleface philosophy, you have to be intentional. And once you write down sort of like the companies that you're interested in, and the sectors that you want to work in, again, it focuses you. So I, for example, knew that I wanted to work in, like the British Council, which is like a global organization, Etisalat, which was, a global organization at that time in the tech sector, same thing for Total. So I was not even focused on any local companies, not because there's anything bad with local companies, but at this point, I wanted to move into like more global organizations. So when you write it down, when you're specific, when you set clear time-bound, achievable goals, it keeps you focused on the goal. And then practical things like updating your CV. I can't count how many times I've seen people apply for a role with outdated CVs, with errors in the CVs, with just CVs that don't even fully describe who they are or what they're doing. So you should update your CV. Make sure that it has like your latest and most recent experience and that your CV is speaking for you. I always advise to make sure that your CV is as descriptive as possible. So for example, some people say, I was responsible for writing. Okay, but what was the impact of your writing? Did you impact 60,000 people every month? Did your writing translate to sales for 40,000 products? People want to see the impact versus just the skills. So make sure that your CV is telling that story. And another important thing about your resume or your CV is that your CV speaks for you when you are not there yet. It is through your CV that people say, oh, you know what, let's schedule a call with this person. Oh, this person's CV looks interesting, or this person's experience seems interesting. So you have to put your best foot forward at the first time. The second thing I would recommend is updating your CV and your LinkedIn. These days, there are still some people, shock, horror, surprise, who do not have LinkedIn. I don't think that there's any excuse for that. The world is increasingly becoming a global village. It's increasingly becoming a digital marketplace, and people want to find you. People want to see your digital footprint. And so if you're thinking of making a global career, the first place some recruiters will go to is your LinkedIn. The first place hiring managers will go through, oh, let me even see this person. Let me see how their experience ladders up. Let me see if their LinkedIn aligns to what they're saying in their CV. So it's very, very important. I don't care if you're entry level, if you've had only one job selling Indomie noodles in your mother's shop, you should have presence on LinkedIn. You should. Now, a few tips that I want to share. It's not important to put your state of origin, your gender, your age, or even the country you're from. Whether we realize it or not, they're what we call biases. Some people have unconscious bias, and so you don't want to be removed out of an opportunity because of your age, because of your gender, because of your race. So even the ideas of putting your photographs on CVs globally is not advisable. So you want to keep your CV very tailored to your professional and academic achievements, so people judge you based on that. Another thing to do in terms of planning is to attend career-focused events or international networking sessions. So, for example, this fantastic summit, this summit by the Richer Woman is a great way to meet people. There are many speakers. There are a host of speakers on this platform across this next couple of days. This is a networking event, whether or not you realize it. So the next thing that you can do is to reach out to people on LinkedIn to say, hey, I listened to your session, XYZ resonated with me. Do you have time for a 20-minute coffee chat? I want to talk to you about XYZ. Again, be very respectful of people's time. Go straight to the point, and just really take advantage of platforms like this. Make strategic outreach to people. I've approached several people on LinkedIn that I didn't know, but for example, if they were in companies that I wanted to be in, or if they were, they were part of fellowship programs that I wanted to learn more about, I would reach out to them. And guess what? Not everybody responds. Not everybody is nice. Not everybody is kind. Sometimes people are busy. Sometimes people are stressed. Sometimes people are like, who is this person reaching out to me? But utilize social media, especially LinkedIn, to reach out strategically. Be very clear about your objectives. A lot of people have reached out to LinkedIn and they will say things like, I need a mentor. I need you to, and I want to talk to you. Honestly, that's not a strategic or valuable use of my time, because there are many people who have that same desire. There are many people who have that same request. So there has to be something that is standing out. So for example, you might say, hey, I'm interested in transitioning to a comms focused role. And I want to hear your thoughts on how I should navigate the changes. Now that's something that will pique my interest, because I support women across board. So I would be like, this is something that I want to do. So be very strategic, be very meaningful, and don't be a troll. There are also people who write, hi, hello, hi. Hi, hi. They write it for 3 years. They just keep writing hi, hello, hi, hello, hi, hello. Don't do that. Be very strategic, be very meaningful. The last thing that I would say in terms of making a plan is learn about the companies that you want to go to. Learn. You want to go to the UN, learn about the UN and its it's different agencies. You want to come to Facebook, learn about Facebook, learn about its products. You want to work in an oil and gas company, learn about the industry. You don't have to know everything about the industry that you want to go into, but you have to begin to learn about it. And of course, stay focused. The next part that I would say, and I think this is very important in terms of global acceleration and visibility. A lot of people want to jump right in, right? So for example, maybe you are of Kenyan descent, or like you're Kenyan or you're Nigerian, and you want to work, in the US, you want to work in Europe, you want to work in the Middle East. The best thing to do first is to start local. I'll use the example, my personal example. I started out in a local PR agency in 2007, and I really built competencies. I started out, pitching to the media, writing press releases, drafting opinion editorials and articles for clients. I learned the whole shebang. And that was useful because it gave me incredible local context. So there's almost nothing you can ask me about the Nigerian media and communications and PR landscape that I don't know. There's almost nothing that you can ask me about the policy communications landscape of Africa that I don't know, because I had been building competence and capacity steadily. Now, why it's important for you to start local is because think about it as like a ladder. So you start, so for example, again, maybe you're Nigerian, maybe you're Ghanaian, maybe you're from Senegal. You then build competence within your country, within your sector, and then you then go regional. So for example, I'll use another example. When I was leading communications for Uber in West Africa, after I did that for a few years, I was like, okay, I've conquered Nigeria, I've conquered Ghana, I've conquered, Ivory Coast. I want to expand. What's happening in East Africa? What's happening in Southern Africa? And so I went to my boss and I was like, this is my plan. I want to do more regional communications. And when the opportunities came, I also started to lead communications for East Africa. And when the opportunity came, I also then had Southern Africa added to my portfolio. So what had this done? I had moved from having just Nigerian competencies to Pan-African and regional competencies. And this is great because I had then become a subject matter expert. And when organizations are recruiting, they're actually looking for subject matter experts. Who is this person that can teach us about this region? Who is this person that has the insights? Who is this person that understands that Ugandan press is completely different from Tanzanian press? Who is this person that understands that in Nigeria, print media is still large, but in Ghana, there's a lot of like digital and TV media there. You once you begin to build regional competence, you begin to understand the nuance. And then, so again, just to recap, start local, build out key competencies, become the best in your field, and then move to the regional field. Once you're done with that, I always ask people to aim for the highest. When I had conquered Sub-Saharan Africa, I said, you know what? I've done campaigns now in Africa. I've collaborated with doing campaigns in Europe and the Middle East. I want to go to America. That was literally it. And then I started to look for opportunities in America. And that's another thing about working in global companies. Remember what I said at the beginning? You begin to think, it's not just because, you want to japa. It's not just because you want people to say, this person is in America, or they're in the UK, or they're in Switzerland. It's because it's a transition for your career. And so then you move to being global. But guess what's happening now? They trust you because you're bringing the experience of many regions. You're bringing the experience of many countries, and you're bringing something that most people don't have. So for example, if I'm in an interview loop now people are going to look at this person has African experience. Wow, this person has European experience. And this person also has American experience. Wow, if you put me in the same space with a few people, that will always stand me out. So you want to start local, transition to regional and then go global. But again, you have to be intentional. You have to plan it out, and you just have to be really focused, right? Okay, so let's take a pause here. Because I want to quickly wrap up. I know we have, I'm being conscious of time. In all of these journeys, there are three things that are very important: a coach, a mentor, and a sponsor. A mentor, and people use the words interchangeably. A coach comes alongside you. Like, they help you to make sense of issues and challenges. A coach might not always be a career coach. It may be a life coach. It may be someone it may be a faith coach, but they provide clarity for you. I would encourage you to have a coach because it helps. You need the clarity. You can't go on the journey alone. A mentor is someone who discusses how you might consider your next career move. I've been blessed to have fantastic mentors. I remember when I was trying to transition, when I was considering going to Uber, I remember calling my mentor and I was like, oh, Auntie, I don't think I like this role. It seems very stressful. It's going to be crisis communications. I don't really like it. And she was like, no, I think you should. And she gave me reasons why it was a good move for my career. And looking back now, I joined Uber West Africa in 2017. Looking back now over the 6 years, that was a great career move. So a mentor helps you, and then I always go back to her. Oh, Auntie, I want to, I'm thinking of getting a promotion. What do I say? I want to ask for a raise. How do I, mentors, they are with you in the trenches, and they give a very specific career focus, to your journey. The third part is the sponsor. Now, sponsors are people that you might not necessarily be close to, but they are highly regarded influencers operating in circles that exceed your own. So think about, maybe you are a manager in a company. This sponsor is like your manager's manager, or like a VP, or like the CEO, or like the COO, somebody who recognizes the impact of your work, but you don't necessarily deal with the person on a day-to-day basis. It's very important to cultivate these relationships. Please note that I'm not asking you to go to someone's house to wash their clothes or walk their dogs or wash their plates. That's not building relationships. I'm saying you must ensure that your work is visible. So if you're having, for example, company cocktails, if you're having, those sorts of events, you want to make sure that people are seeing your work. They are seeing the impact of your work, and you are discussing your work. So when you go for company offsites, it's not for you to just be like, I'm an introvert, I'm going to stay in my own corner. I'm Francesca Uriri, I'm a deep introvert. But when I go for those company gatherings, I make sure that I'm having conversations, I'm talking about my work, and I'm raising the impact and profile of what I'm doing. So a coach, a mentor, and a sponsor are absolutely essential for career acceleration and global growth. And here are a few things to also remember. I know that women grapple with imposter syndrome, and some of that is not by our own making. Sometimes, especially as sometimes maybe Black women in the global corporate space, those spaces were not historically designed for us. So never doubt that you are kind. Never doubt that you are smart. Never doubt that you are competent. Never doubt that you are capable. Never ever doubt that. It will come. The questions will come. Oh, can I do this? Oh, I don't want to embarrass people. I don't want to embarrass myself. I don't want to let myself down. But never doubt